As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
All right, hey everyone, welcome into another episode of the Sleeping with the Numbers podcast. Dylan here. No internet, so I'm going on this just through my phone, everything I've written down here. Luckily, I was able to get the model to output its picks for the week as well as its bets. Remember, those are going to be two different things. I'll get into that a bit more when we get to it. But for now, we're going to kick off the episode with what I said we were going to do last week, and that is with the season-long award bets. The way I like to do these bets is a few ways. I guess it's slightly different depending on the award itself. But overall, for all of these bets, I like hedging, personally. Taking one guy to win this early in the season. Yes, there's favorites everywhere, and you can get pretty good odds with them. But hedging is usually what I tend to do with these picks. Just because the season can go crazy ways, you know. God news today, the day after I draft Travis Kelce, that he is likely to not play on Thursday. So that's fantastic. Can't wait for that. This episode coming out Friday, so this will already have happened, and it sounds like he is not going to play after hyperextending his knee, so that's always fun. So hopefully, if you do have him, you can make the adjustments needed. Hopefully it's a short-term thing, but we'll know more later. So let's jump into it. Like I said, I like to hedge here, and the way I like to hedge is, so let's do MVP, for example. The most favorite odds for MVP is Patrick Mahomes. He is at plus 600 at the moment. Now, what I do is I see that plus 600, that essentially means I can take 7 other bets at the same unit, and if Patrick Mahomes wins, I essentially just make my money back. I'm not making really any profit there. But if one of my other guys hits, they all have longer odds than Mahomes does, then I make profit. So there's a way, that's the way I tend to do it. I know some people don't like hedging, but for these long bets, I do like doing that. You pick the folks that you think do have the best shot at doing it, and then you lock them in and hope it's not Mahomes that wins MVP. But if he does, you at least make your money back. So with that said, when you are betting MVP, you are generally taking a losing bet if you take anyone else but a quarterback. The last non-quarterback to win MVP was Adrian Peterson. So that has been quite a long time. Since then, the move is quarterback. It's always been quarterback. So that's what we're doing here. All of my bets for MVP are for quarterback. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to list off the bets I have taken for MVP, and then I'll talk through it a bit more. I hinted to it last episode that Justin Herbert is really who I think can get it done this year for MVP, and he has pretty good odds. So running through these, Mahomes at plus 600, Burrow plus 750, Josh Allen at plus 850, Hurts at plus 1100, Herbert at plus 1200. Then you got the guy who's done it twice already, Aaron Rodgers at plus 1600, and Lamar Jackson at plus 1500. So those are all the guys I have taken for MVP, all quarterbacks, just because that is always the best bet in terms of probability. And then, like I said, I think Justin Herbert really has a good chance this year. You know, they're coming in different offensive coordinator, guy who really likes to pass the ball. If his weapons stay healthy, between Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and now they got Quentin Johnston. So if one of those guys goes down, there should be at least a better 3-man rotation going on. Gerald Everett can get some touchdowns as well. And I think their division outside of the Chiefs is decently weak. You know, the Raiders and the Broncos, I think, are bad teams. We talked about it last week when I went through season-long wins. So I think there's a really good opportunity here for Justin Herbert. Everyone else is just like I said, I'm hedging. These are the guys who I think have the best chance. I hope it's not Mahomes. I hope it's one of these guys, so there is profit. But if it is Mahomes, I just break even, which, whatever, that's fine. So the way these awards are decided is a voting system, and how it goes. I was always like, okay, what the hell's the difference between MVP and Offensive Player of the Year? Because generally, it is an offensive player winning MVP anyways, almost always. An Offensive Player of the Year is obviously an offensive player. So sometimes they do match up. Mahomes has won both MVP and Offensive Player of the Year. Adrian Peterson has done it as well. So what I have found to be the difference is MVP tends to be tied a bit to team success. So if you make a big difference to your team does well because of you, which is obviously why it makes sense to be the quarterback position, because they have the most impact on the game. That is how that is kind of voted on. Whereas Offensive Player of the Year, it is all really about statistics. Your team could be absolutely terrible, but you put up some wild numbers, you're going to likely get Offensive Player of the Year. So that's really the difference between the two. I had a hard time kind of wrapping my head around it when I was looking at these. I'm like, well, why wouldn't just the MVP also be Offensive Player of the Year? Well, that's why. MVP is more about the impact that player has on the team. Offensive Player of the Year and the Defensive Player of the Year is more about actual statistics. So jumping into Offensive Player of the Year here, you will be surprised that at least recently, quarterback has not been the position to win Offensive Player of the Year. Mahomes has done it as well when winning MVP. I just talked about that a little bit. But most recently, it has been wide receivers. So while it's not super improbable for a quarterback to also win this award, it has just not been for the past few years. It has, like I said, been more on the wide receiver side. So with that said, obviously the current favorite is a wide receiver in Jamar Chase at plus 1,100. And that does surprise me that it is him over Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson is at 1,300. So like I said, so the lowest odds bet here is going to be 1,100, which means I can take 12 picks at the same unit and essentially hedge all of them. I didn't do that. I didn't take all 12 bets. That was just a little bit too much. I'd rather leave a little bit more room here for profit. So that's what I'm going here with these picks. So like I said, Jamar Chase at plus 1,100. That makes sense. Really, you can kind of almost correlate the chance of winning Offensive Player of the Year with how well they do in fantasy. So being a fantasy football guy myself, this is kind of where it makes sense. So Jamar Chase at plus 1,100, Justin Jefferson at plus 1,300. In most leagues, those dudes are going like top 3, if not top 5 overall. Next, we get Christian McCaffrey at plus 1,500. In a lot of leagues, he has been taken over Justin Jefferson, and it's usually Jefferson and then Christian McCaffrey, or vice versa. I have seen most of the drafts go that way. Of course, depending on scoring format, but that is how I have seen it quite a bit. So Christian McCaffrey at plus 1,500 seems like a good bet. Just needs to stay on the field, really. And then I did stack. I guess you can call it a stack. Stack some of these quarterbacks to also win Offensive Player of the Year. And I didn't do that with a lot of quarterbacks, just the 3 most likely ones. First one being Joe Burrow at plus 2,500, Mahomes at plus 3,500, and then Justin Herbert at plus 4,500. Those are some fun bets there for Offensive Player of the Year. And who knows, maybe you can double it down or double dip with the MVP awards with those guys. Finishing it out with some other offensive non-quarterback positions, Garrett Wilson is an interesting one. I think if Rodgers wins MVP, there's also probably a good chance that Garrett Wilson is going to be in consideration for Offensive Player of the Year. He already won Offensive Rookie of the Year last year, so let's see if he can take that next step forward. So Garrett Wilson at plus 3,000. Derrick Henry also at plus 3,000. We know the steam has to run out for Derrick Henry eventually. I don't think it will be this year. I think he runs into the ground this year because the end is near, sadly, for Mr. Henry. And then my boy Saquon Barkley, plus 4,500 to win Offensive Player of the Year. I think it is a similar situation to Derrick Henry where the end is near, but not in terms of career. The end is near for his contract. He's only playing on a one-year deal right now for the Giants. So the Giants really don't have a ton of investment in him. So they're okay running his wheels off this season. He's going to get a ton of work. It's going to be him and Darren Waller really as this entire offense. So if he's putting up the numbers, Offensive Player of the Year is not out of the range of possibilities. Finally, for Defensive Player of the Year, I only took 3 guys here. The favorite currently is Michael Parsons at plus 500, and I'm hedging him with only 2 guys. TJ Watt at plus 850, that's what I'm hoping for, and then last year's winner, Nick Bosa at plus 1,200. And given that he just won it, I was pretty surprised that Bosa is only 1,200. That's pretty wild to me. For Offensive Rookie of the Year, I gave it to the running backs. Bijan is the obvious favorite right now at plus 275. The other guy I placed a bet on is Jahmyr Gibbs at plus 1,000. Gibbs went way earlier than anyone expected when the Lions took him, so they obviously like the dude. They want to use him. There's been nothing but good vibes out of camp, out of preseason practice, whatever. It's all been good about him. They want to use him in every way possible. So that's going to give him a lot of opportunity to get some numbers. Then finally, the favorite for the Defensive Rookie of the Year is Will Anderson at plus 400. Funny enough, this is who I'm least in on, but he's currently the favorite. So like I said, how I'm playing this is taking the favorite and then hedging from there. The guys I do believe in a bit more are those cornerbacks, Christian Gonzalez and Devin Witherspoon. Gonzalez currently at plus 950, Witherspoon at plus 1,000. I really do think there is an edge there, with those implied odds. I talk about that. I think there's a greater chance that they actually get this win than the odds imply. And maybe a little bit of the inverse for Will Anderson. I just think it's easier to show, unless you're getting sacks nonstop, it's easier to show how well you do statistically as a kind of a defensive back cornerback. So we will see what happens there. But those are my season-long award bets. Going to be getting the website here soon. Hopefully it's up by the time this episode releases. sleepingwiththenumbers.com. There you can follow all of our bets, our history, our progress, profit loss. Everything will be on that site. I'm also hoping to get my DFS picks up there. I'll do like a tournament lineup and a cash lineup, and then you guys can kind of decide how you want to play those. And then I'm going to be using a model that we made pretty late into the season last year for DFS. It's going to be a tournament-based model, and I will upload those. So let's hop into these week 1 bets. We're here. It is time for the season to start. I have created a new model for this season, and this model is specifically focused on the money line. So I'm not going to go into full detail. Most of you probably don't care. Maybe I'll write an article about the creation of this model, why it's different than what we've done in the past, and how it works. And we will go from there. So just a little insight to the model. Previously, we had a single model. The single model that would predict both winner, so money line, and spread. Essentially, the way that worked, it would predict the score for each team Obviously, the higher score, that's your money line pick. And then the spread, depending on the spread, you would go based off of those predicted scores. Easy enough. I wanted to get a little bit more specific this time around for the money line. And the reason being is this model will actually be really taking into account edges. And I discussed that in our tips to be a better sports bettor episode. And this is what it's going to do. It is going to instead predict a probability that a team wins. It's going to compare it to the current odds, convert those to an implied probability. And if we calculate an edge for a money line bet, it will take that bet, given it is not minus 200 or less. We're not going to be taking those big favorite bets. They don't pay out enough for us to care about, even if we win. It's just not worth it. So to give a little insight to how the model performed, we backtracked the model to compare how it would have performed since 2016. And with that, I can give you some data on that. Just gonna scroll the whole way down to the damn model. So when the model predicts an edge, and this is going to be in units. So we talked about units. Everyone can have a different unit. That sounds funny. Some people's unit is $1. Some people's unit is $1,000. It really depends on you. That's why when I talk in terms of betting, I bet in units. It's just for everyone to be able to follow along, and not me being like, oh, I'm going to bet $100 here. And people can be like, well, I don't have $100. It's just easier to bet in units, and then everyone can apply their own unit. So with that said, every bet here is going to be in a single unit. And since 2016, not including playoffs, the profit loss for this model when betting money lines with an edge is 123.91 units. And the win percentage for that is 59.91%. So that's pretty good. I'm very happy with that outcome. If we look at what the profit loss would be per year, there's some years that had some pretty big spikes. So 2016 was the first year we tested 19.58 units. 2017, much lower at 10.12 units. 2018, 33.51. 2019, 14.27. 2020, 12.43. Then 2021, 34, if we round it up there. Has not been tested on 2022. Didn't pull the data for that. Just a heads up there. So a little more detail on how this model works. It is focusing on rolling averages on a team's performance, offensive statistics, defensive statistics. We put them against each other head to head, and the model will make a prediction, a percent chance that a team will win. I also tested it on different thresholds, so I'll put this on the website as well, and we'll discuss it every week. The predicted win probability, I tested this for each essentially confidence level. So if the model since 2016 to 2021, if the predicted win probability was above 50%, and you took every bet that the model predicted over 50% win chance, you would have profited 132.66 units. For 60%, 120.88 units. 70% or greater, 108.17 units. 80% or greater, 94.91 units. And over 90% predicted win probability, 63.54 units. So obviously, profit around the board there. You will notice that it's higher if we bring down the threshold to 50% or greater. Probably because you're taking more bets is what that means to your win percentage. Not as high. If we go from there, the percent win for 50% or greater predicted win probability is under 70%. So about 63% is what that looks like for 0.6, 74% for 0.7, 83% for 0.8 or greater, 89%, and then for 0.9 or greater, it's at about 96%. You just don't get a lot of that confidence there. So again, those win percentages, those don't take into account edge. Those don't take into account if the bet is like minus 1,000 or some shit. That is just the win percentage that it is calculating here. And then to remind everyone how we bet one more time, we bet when there's an edge and the odds are not less than minus 200. There's just not enough money to win there. So let's jump into it. Week by week, we get football on Thursday. The Kansas City Chiefs at home are going to be playing Detroit. I already talked about that horrible news with Travis Kelce not looking like he's going to play. We'll see what happens. Again, this episode comes out after this game. The other thing I want to mention here that probably would have been a pretty good tip to put into how to become a better sports bettor, you have to shop your odds. That is a very big thing. It's difficult to do when you're in a state that doesn't have a lot of legally backed sports betting. So like if you're in a state like Pennsylvania, New Jersey, those are pretty good states. Arizona, you can shop multiple books. Las Vegas, mobile sports betting is a little different there, but you can walk to a casino if you're in Vegas and like place your bets in person if you wanted to. But shop your odds. That is really a key thing. Action Network used to do that pretty well. I don't know what the issue is now. Maybe it's a paid feature now that they took away. But oddschecker.com does it as well. And they will tell you where you can find the best line for every bet. Spread, money line, total for every game. So that's where I look. Used to be Action Network, but they fucked that up. So with that said, game number 1 of the 2023-2024 NFL season is upon us. The Lions at the Chiefs. Chiefs currently at minus 225. Lions at plus 210. Chiefs favored by 5.5 points. So the model went into the game and it is predicting Kansas City to win. That makes sense. But there's no edge here with that bet. They predict a 52.32% win chance for the Chiefs. In the implied probability from the odds, when I looked at it, the odds have came down. But when I ran the model and took these bets, this is what they were at the time. Minus 270 was what it was before the Kelce injury, which is a 72.97% implied probability. For Detroit, the model predicts them to lose. 47.68% chance of winning. However, there is an edge when taking this bet. The implied probability, we got the Lions at plus 220, was 31.25%. So that is an edge of 16.43%, which means we're taking this bet. And I know this is sometimes backwards, and I probably harp on this a lot. Dylan, you don't expect the Lions to win. Why would you bet on them? That's part of the game. You are gambling. We are gambling that the Lions are going to win, and the reason we are gambling is because there is an edge, which really just means the implied probability from the odds does not match the real probability that our model is predicting. So with that said, the model will be taking Kansas City to win, but we're going to be betting on the Lions to win. So just a heads up there. That's how that works. So that is our first bet there. I'll talk about, I think that's a fine bet. I do also think the Chiefs win even without Kelsey. It's going to be an interesting one. But hey, that's what we're here for. We're here for interesting. The next matchup, we get the Arizona Cardinals taking on the Washington Commanders. They're throwing in a rookie to play for the Cardinals, which is awesome. It's pretty wild. The Commanders currently a minus 300 favorite, so even if there is an edge, we're not taking that bet. The Cardinals at plus 285. Minus 7 home point favorites for the Commanders. The model predicts the Commanders 95.42% win probability, which is a 20.113% edge. So you want to take that bet, go for it. We will not be taking that bet. The return just isn't enough for us to care about, which leaves the Cardinals with only a 4.579% chance of winning, a negative 24.41% edge. We're going to learn a lot in week 1 about these teams and how they perform. And as we learn more, the model gets fed that data and we'll be using it to make future bets. So like if the Cardinals come out and they perform, the model's going to know that for next week. And, maybe next week they have a better than 4.5% chance of winning according to the model. So no bet here for this game. Next matchup, NFC South. This is also going to be telling. The Carolina Panthers take on the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons a minus 178 favorite at the moment, plus 160 for the Panthers. We were able to get them at minus 185, so not that great. So that's again why you shop odds. When we didn't take a bet on the Falcons at minus 185, but those were what the odds were when the model was looking at it. Plus 154 is what we got the Panthers at, and that is where we are going to be taking our bet. The model actually predicts the Panthers to win. The model, ignorant of Bijan Robinson. This is going off past performances, which I said, if Atlanta comes out, Bijan is the monster he's expected to be, the model will learn about that. So 63.212% chance win for the Panthers, 36.788% chance win for the Falcons, which gives a 23.842% edge for the Panthers money line. So the model will be taking that bet at plus 154 is where we got that. It's even better now at plus 160 at Bet365. The Ravens are at home against the Texans, minus 450 on the money line, plus 420 blaze it for the Texans, minus 10 home favorite here for the Ravens. This one blows my mind, and one I am too big of a chicken to take, but the model has the Texans winning 66.327%. I'm never gonna adjust these predictions. I'm gonna tell you straight up what they are, and if I think it's wild, I will let you know. But according to the model, based on the data it is given, Texans must have just shown out at the end of last season, and the Baltimore Ravens obviously didn't without Lamar. So this is one where we need to be careful because Lamar is here. Lamar has better weapons around him now. So I personally will not be taking this bet, even though the money that the model uses is my money. So I guess technically I'm taking this bet. I just don't approve of it. But they have the Ravens at a 33.673% chance of winning. Texans at 66.327%. This gives a 45.05% edge to the Houston Texans on the money line. Even more so now. We got that bet at plus 370. They are currently at plus 420 on FanDuel. So that's a wild one. But hey, scared money don't make money is what I tell myself as I make stupid bets. That'll be yet another interesting one. CJ Stroud has not really looked great in preseason, and obviously all the hope in the world is on the Ravens, and that's likely why the odds are what they are and why the model does think there is an edge. The only difference being the model actually believes that the Texans will win, which is wild. But we'll be tracking this over time so we can see the model performance over time. You can get all that on our website, sleepingwiththenumbers.com. Moving on to the next game, AFC North, my home division. This one I love. I love this one a lot, actually. The Cincinnati Bengals are going to Cleveland to take on the Browns. The Browns are 2.5-point home underdogs, and the Bengals are only sitting at minus 134. We got them at minus 135. We use DraftKings mostly when we're looking at our odds, but please shop around. DraftKings is usually pretty good. FanDuel too. So the model has Browns at a 34.759% chance of winning. The Bengals at a 65.241% chance of winning, giving a 7.794% edge for the money line for the Bengals. I'm all in on that bet. That makes a lot of sense to me. I've talked about it before, and I try not to be biased, but I have zero faith in the Browns. I know I have them at 11 wins, but that's really against bad teams. The Browns organization is a joke. They drafted a kicker and he didn't make the team. Like, what are we doing? I shouldn't say we. What are they doing? I'm not part of that crap. But for the Bengals to be this little of a favorite against the Browns is nonsense. So that one, I need like a super stamp of approval because that's where this bet would be. Next bet here, or game here, I should say. Jags against the Colts. Colts plus 198. Jags minus 220 currently. Jags minus 5 away favorites. I'm with the model here as well, but we will not be taking this bet because it is less than 200. Minus 200, I should say. Colts 29.156% chance of winning. No edge there. Jags 70.844% chance of winning, which does give a slight edge of 1.613%. So, that if that's close enough and you're comfortable with that, go for it. That is all your call. I'm just reading numbers here for you guys. For us and for our purposes of tracking, like I said, we're not taking any bet less than minus 200. Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings are currently 6-point home favorites, minus 250 on the money line, plus 215 for the Buccaneers. The model is going to be not taking a bet on this one. It did not find an edge for either team. Let me find and read the win probability. So it does have... it did find an edge for the Vikings. Win probability for the Vikings, 80.391% chance, which gives an 8.962% edge from the odds we were using. Bucs only a 19.609% chance of winning. Suck it, Baker, which is a negative 13.177% edge. So, while the model does believe there's an edge here, much similar to the last game, it's pretty close if you want to take it, but it's not just because of that cutoff we've been talking about. Next game, the Titans travel to New Orleans to take on the Saints. Saints minus 3 home favorites, minus 165 on the money line, plus 160 for the Titans. A slight edge here for the Titans. We had the odds at minus 175. They're currently minus 165, so even more of an edge now. 64.278% chance of winning. So the model will be taking the Saints money line. Titans, the opposite, well, the inverse, I should say, 35.722% chance of winning. I like the Titans, honestly. I think they're a well-managed organization. I have no faith in Derek Carr. That's really the big things. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Titans do come out here and win this game. So, if you want to track my bets as well, you can do so on the website, or follow me on Action Network at Fantasy Football, PYANTASY. You can follow my bets there. The bets on the Sleeping with the Numbers podcast, Action Network, those will all be based on the model that I'm reading off here. Next game, one I'm very interested in, but the model apparently hates the Pittsburgh Steelers. I haven't added that bias into there. They're giving the Steelers, who are at home, 2.5-point underdogs, plus 120 on the money line, minus 130 for the Niners. They're giving the Steelers an 8.767% chance of winning, which is pretty damn bad. And the Niners, 91.233% chance of winning. Due to contract reasons, I will not be taking this bet, but the model really does believe in the Niners. At minus 142 is where we took the bet. 32.555% edge. Even better now if you take this bet over at Caesars Sportsbook. It's currently sitting at minus 130. Going into the afternoon games, the Packers are taking on division rivals, the Bears. The Bears, wow, currently favored by a point, minus 110 on the money line, even money for the Packers. The Bears, the model is giving them a 34.448% chance of winning, and Green Bay a 65.552% chance of winning, giving an edge on the money line. We got at minus 102. You can get better odds on, where's that, FanDuel at even money, but the edge we got was 15.057%. So model will be taking that bet on Green Bay, and I tend to agree with them. I have always been pretty vocal about my non-belief in Justin Fields. Ohio State quarterbacks just can't do it in the NFL. I don't know why. It could have been a Urban Meyer thing, and he's gone. And I mean, Justin Fields is the last one that needs to prove that, because he didn't have Urban for his career. But it really does remain to be seen. I do not believe Fields is a starter in the next few years. Yeah, he'll probably get a contract somewhere else, but I just do not believe in him. He's fantastic for fantasy, and that's where the fun's going to be. That's where I care about him. I drafted him. But for real life football, I just do not see it. So I'm with the model here on taking the Green Bay Packers to win. Raiders, Broncos. Broncos a minus 180 favorite. Minus 4 favorite as well. Plus 175 for the Raiders. The model is taking an edge and actually will be taking the bet. So I will have to add that bet currently with these odds. When we initially looked at the odds, it was minus 205 for the Broncos. It is now currently minus 180 on Caesars Sportsbook. So I need to go and make that bet. That is currently not added for the model because it was less than 200, minus 200. So even bigger edge there. When we looked at the edge before, it was 6.258. It is now greater with the shift in the market and will lead to another bet being made by the model. Only a 26.529% chance of winning for the Raiders, according to the model. Dolphins, Chargers. This is where I'm going to be focusing my DFS lineups, which I will be sure to post on the website, sleepingwiththenumbers.com, and I'll throw it out on some socials as well. I'll get Pat, to my social media man, to help me out with that. Speaking of which, social media, we're on TikTok now, so I don't know. Here I am now. I feel a little old for it. I'm not even 30, but like still. But we are there, Sleeping with the Numbers podcast. if you want to check us out. I try to be funny, and usually it doesn't work, but I try my best. Feel free to reach out on any of these, and let's talk bets. Let's talk fantasy football. I'm here to help. Anyways, Dolphins Chargers. Chargers -3. Home favorites -160 on the money line. Plus 145 for Miami. I am a big fan of the Chargers this year. I have been for quite a few years, but this year just feels right. If we look at, where the hell are they? Chargers. Chargers. Dude, there we go. Even bigger edge this time around, but the model has a 73.579% chance of winning for the Chargers. Only a 26.421% chance for the Dolphins, giving an 11.173% edge on the money line for the Chargers. The model will be taking that bet. I'm also taking that bet, so I'm double dipping here. That's going to be a good one. Also, the highest over/under of the year. That is true. I didn't mean to say year. This is the first week. So while that is technically true, I meant to say week. It is the highest over/under of the week. So if you want to focus your fantasy lineups on it, I think that's a good move. Another divisional matchup, the Rams and the Seahawks. The Seahawks are -5 home favorites, -240 on the money line, plus 210 for the Rams. Kupp, some crazy news there with his hamstring. Also, why you don't draft this early, because that can really screw you. So hopefully, man, even now, right, with the Travis Kelce injury, the only way you could have known about that is if you drafted tonight, which is a Tuesday, or tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday morning before the game. Like, draft as late as possible, folks. That's really what it is. We did all of our drafts over Labor Day weekend, which is usually late enough, but now we get this Kelce crap. It's a rough world out there. The model has a 63.415% chance of winning for Seattle, a 36.585% chance of winning for the Rams. So here is another example of an underdog not expected to win by the model, but does project a 3.252% edge. So the model will be taking this bet. Got the bet at plus 200. You can currently get it at plus 210 at Bet365. Hey, the model has balls of steel that I do not. So we'll see how that goes there. That's a rough one too. Remember, the model does not know about injuries. It only takes into account statistical metrics. You could potentially add a feature like maybe like key player injured or something like that. I don't know how well that would connect. Might be something fun to try down the line, but right now the model does not take that into account. Eagles, Patriots. The model apparently hates the Patriots. The Patriots are +4 home underdogs, plus 168 on the money line, minus 180 for the Eagles. Only giving the Patriots a 6.019% chance of winning. The Eagles a 93.981% chance of winning. And this is a bet both of us are going to take. We got it at minus 198, which gives a 27.538% edge. You can currently do better at minus 180 at Bet365. So that just makes a lot of sense. Eagles, fantastic team. Obviously made it to the Super Bowl. Patriots, looking rough. Report just came out that like Juju's knee can explode at any time. So that's great. Got that news right after we drafted him too. It's tough. It's tough out there. Pretty fun. Sunday night game for the first of the year. Divisional matchup, Cowboys at the Giants. The Giants are only 3-point home underdogs. That's just stands out to me. I think the Cowboys are just a much better team. Plus 150 on the money line for the Giants, minus 165 for the Cowboys. The model is agreeing with me, only giving the Giants a 19.034% chance of winning. So not betting on them. It will be betting on the Cowboys, who they give an 80.966 percent chance of winning. It took them at minus 166. Only 1 point different there, which gives a 18.56% chance. I'm sorry, percent edge, I should say. So the model will be taking that. I will as well. And then finally, Monday Night Football starts off with the Bills versus the Jets. Bills, only a minus 2.5 point favorite, which is wild to me. I personally am taking the Bills spread and money line. I understand all the hype around the Jets, but that's what this is. And I think after this week, we're going to learn some things. I'm going to be proven right or wrong, and I think the world will be in shambles if the Jets go out there and just look bad. So the model gives no edge for either team, currently giving the Jets a 44.401% chance of winning, with the when we were looking, it was plus 114, currently plus 120. That does still not give enough an edge to take a bet. Bills 55.599% chance of winning. We looked at it at minus 135. That's still a negative edge of negative 1.847. So no bet here on Monday Night Football. Just enjoy it. It probably really matters for fantasy football, but for these bets, the model will not be taking any. I'll personally be taking the Bills, but model will not. That's it for week 1. I know I didn't talk spreads too much here. We will get into them in the later episodes. Spread bets, however, will be up on the website, sleepingwiththenumbers.com. You can also follow them at Action Network, Sleeping with the Numbers Podcast, or myself at Fantasy Football PYANTASY. Check us out on YouTube as well. We are there at Fantasy Podcast PYANTASY. And you can check out our movie review podcast on there as well. Me and my friend Ty do that every week. Review movies that have just came out and tell you what to look forward to in the movie world. That's pretty much it. Hit us up if you have questions on fantasy, bets, whatever. Do my best to help you out. Give us a follow. Hopefully we post good enough content here that we are making people some money. I will also be posting my DFS lineups for this week. That's one of my favorite things to do. Maybe I'll make a video making one. But if not, you'll at least get some screenshots of my teams, and you can decide what to do from that. But cool. Thank you for joining in week 1. Hope it works out for everyone, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.